Hey there, Libra. Welcome to your reading for the middle of August 2025. You have this mountain card that says challenges and achievements on it. You have this envelope, it says unfolding surprise on it. I kind of feel like you need to take the spotlight here, Libra, in something, especially in work or business. It's like maybe you need to be more bold in work and take the spotlight. Like I said, it's like you need to make sure that you're getting credit for the things that you do. I think that would be a good thing for you to focus on this month, actually. But same thing with anything else that you're doing. It's like maybe you need to do things to be more in the spotlight is kind of what is popping into my head. Kind of makes sense because we're in a time of positive attention. Pluto in Aquarius, right? Pluto in Aquarius basically says we have to be a inspiration to others, but being an inspiration to others means just living your best life, and other people see that and they use you as an example. But obviously, you have to be in the spotlight to be able to do that, and that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Look at this card. This is why I'm saying this. It's like that girl at the top of this mountain here. She's glowing, right? But she climbed a mountain. She did something hard to get to that place. You get where I'm going with this? It's it's very clear to me that this reading is, basically saying that. We're doing a Celtic cross this month for these mid-monthly readings, and you have the Four of Cups as your current general energies. The Four of Cups can represent grass is greener syndrome, thinking the grass is greener on the other side when it wasn't. It can also represent disappointments. I think we've been in an extended period of disappointments, right? And so, now he's being offered something, but he's not accepting it because he has been disappointed too many times before. So I do feel this is encouraging you to take the risk because you have the Five of Swords as your crossing energy, which we are going to talk about in a second, obviously. But plain and simple, I think that what this is saying is that you need to take the risk of accepting something into your life that has disappointed you before. Now, that I am not talking about an ex. If this is love, it would be a new person, but you're trying love again. If it's business, it's maybe you didn't get a job you really wanted, but now you're getting another, maybe there's an interview that you could go on, but maybe you're a little bit worried because you didn't get the last one, right? So it's that's what we're talking about here. So, take the second chance. You have the Five of Swords. Crossing energy can be what hurts you or helps you in a Celtic cross. So the Five of Swords, of course, can represent a separation or walking away from something. It can kind of represent cutting something out. It can also represent winning at all cost, in a bad way, right? Or trying to win at all cost in a bad way. But for you, I feel this is more, again, saying I don't know that this is necessarily a blockage, but it could feel like a little bit of a blockage because, it's asking you to do something maybe risky, including taking the spotlight, stepping up into the spotlight. Sometimes, this type of thing reminds me as well. It's maybe you have a friend at work who also wants a position that you're going for. It's maybe it's hard for you to, do something like that to your friend, or maybe you feel like that would be bad for you to do. But, it's if you're the one that should really get it, then it should be yours in the first place, right? I don't know. It's kind of the feeling I get here, Libra, is that some of you could have a difficult decision like that where it's maybe you're afraid you're going to hurt someone's feelings, or, maybe you're afraid they're going to be mad if you do something or whatever. And but I do feel the Five of Swords is saying do it. I feel like it's saying you have to take the risk of that happening. It could always happen. And, again, the other thing I think you need to think about is that what if you're more qualified in the first place? If this is a job, it's then it's meant for you. You're meant to be in the spotlight is what that card is saying. But, it's funny because that mountain card is also saying, you have to climb the mountain. You have to do the hard thing to get it, right? You have the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles this is coming up in the area of what's on your mind. And so, not wanting to rock the boat. But again, I kind of feel the rest of this month, and I would say next month as well, September, obviously I'm going to be doing September readings as well, but, I kind of feel like we have to be willing to rock the boat a little bit at this time. I think anyone who is going to do anything important over the next many years are going to be people who are not afraid to go against the grain, not afraid to be different. And again, that doesn't mean you have to do anything crazy. It just means that you have to leave comfort zones, or you might have to do things that cause that cause growth from discomfort. And again, we're not talking about bad things here. We're just talking about those things that require strength to do. But the Four of Pentacles, personally, I don't really think it's that bad of a card. He's just a little bit stuck. He's just trying to maintain his stability, but it's like sometimes this type of comfort zone that we have with the Four of Pentacles is the thing that is preventing us from being successful. And this reading wants you to be successful. I'm also getting something here about like needing to speak up. Like I think the reading is saying speak up, Libra. It's a good month for that. Kind of makes sense because in your opposite sign, Aries, we have Saturn and Neptune, and they're both retrograding out. They'll be moving into Pisces soon enough, both planets. But they're still in Aries right now, and they're retrograding back. But I think that specifically Saturn in Aries is like about being loud, right? We cannot be quiet. Mark my words, Saturn and Aries will be loud. I think that there's going to be a lot of noise going on, right? And so now there's a big difference here. That doesn't mean you have to be yelling and screaming from the top of the mountain. Again, we will see a lot of that. We will see a lot of people doing things that is going to cause them to get negative attention, right? So we want to make sure during this time, especially because it's your opposite sign, Aries, right? We want to make sure that we're doing things in the right way. We want to make sure, authenticity is very important right now. Doing things for the right reasons, doing things because your heart is telling you to do them, telling the truth. Those are the things that will make you stand out. And so that's what I would do. But don't be afraid to rock the boat either. You have the Three of Wands. There are 3 boats on the Three of Wands. This is coming up in your foundation. The Three of Wands, he's looking out at the water, and there are these boats on the water, and they're pointing out of the harbor. I always say that the Three of Wands is kind of a card of needing to get on those boats. I actually do feel like your ships could be coming in a little bit. Three of Wands is, most people read it as your ships coming in, which is true. It can definitely represent you getting a result or getting something you've been waiting for. I do feel that you could be getting, if you did work a while ago, it could be returning to you in some way. That's definitely popping into my head. But I do also feel this is encouraging you to, again, leave a comfort zone or do something that is going to require you to be loud or is going to require you to step into the spotlight or something like that, right? Expansion. Three of Wands is expansion, and that's the best way to think about it, is that whatever you're doing is going to make you expand. Next, in the area of the past, this is the energy you're moving past. You have this pregnancy and birth card. If you recently had a child, congratulations. You have this Akashic Record card as well. Yeah, it's like there are things that are like written in the stars that you are meant to do. Like I don't really necessarily think we have this like destined path that we absolutely have to follow. I think that we kind of have free will for the most part. I think maybe there are certain things that we are here to do, obviously, but like how we learn those things or how we experience those things, I think it can it could come up in a million different ways, right? And but I do feel that some of you have the Page of Wands here. It's coming up in the past, but really I almost feel like you're returning to this Page of Wands energy. So also in the past you have this Page of Wands. Page of Wands, he's more willing to follow his optimism and his enthusiasm. Again, I think the thing that I always think of with the Page of Wands that really stands out to me is that he doesn't necessarily have a good reason to be doing what he's doing. So he might feel inspired to go start a random ass business, and people in his life might be saying, "You're rocking the boat. What are you doing with your life? What's going on?" and all this other stuff, and trying to talk you out of something. But he doesn't care. He knows that something feels right, and part of me feels that first part of this reading is basically saying you need to do what you feel is right, even if it rocks the boat, even if it upsets people. I always say that if something you do upsets another person, they're probably way too involved in your life in the first place, right? They need to get their own life and do their own thing. So, that's what I would say there, Libra. I think you kind of need to do your own thing at this time and follow your enthusiasm. But again, I do feel this is more of a return. Again, the past position is usually what the energy that you are moving past. But I read intuitively, and it's popping into my head that you are kind of returning to this energy. It's like you are becoming more Page of Wands-like, more willing to go on adventures, more willing to follow your heart or your optimism or your joy or something that brings you joy and peace. And, again, that's exactly what I would do with that card. Next, in the area of the very near future, you have this Dreamcatcher card. It says, pay attention to the signs, messages, and guidance that come to you at night. Yes, definitely, we'll talk about it. You have the small spirit says, appreciate where you are in your journey instead of wishing it were easier or different. Yes, for sure. But I do think that we are in a very spiritual time as well. Again, Neptune will be going back into Pisces soon enough. So I think we all could be having crazy dreams and that are trying to tell us something. And we should be paying attention to those dreams because they're probably trying to get us to do something. They're probably trying to get us to move in certain directions and things like that. And so I would pay attention to that. I asked ChatGPT about a dream this morning, right? So ask Chat if you don't know how to interpret your dream. But like I had a dream that I found all these snakes underground somewhere in my dream, right? And so, and it's like, it's kind of interesting because I asked Chat what it means, and I don't remember exactly what Chat said, but it said something about like a change that you haven't started yet, that you're kind of keeping hidden, right, at this time. And there are some changes that I want to make that I haven't been doing, that I haven't been working on, that I know I should, right? So it's kind of interesting, but again, maybe you need to do that. It's popping into my head. It might be a good exercise for you. Also, in the very near future, you have the Hierophant. Hierophant is rules, right? So this is the thing that might get in your way, because this reading, as I've said before, Pluto in Aquarius is rebellious energy. Uranus and Gemini is a little bit rebellious as well. We have to be willing to, color outside the lines. We have to be willing to go against the grain, rock the boat, all the things that I said. That doesn't mean we're doing anything illegal. It just means that, it's like, I've learned, I don't know, I need to think about this more, really, because I wish I could describe what I feel more, but, I think we're in a time where it's like pretty much everything I've noticed, even like YouTube, right? It's like there are so many rules that like YouTube experts have that like who came up with that rule? Like why is that even a rule? And is it even true? That's what YouTube has taught me. Like one of the big things is that sometimes an expert will say something, but it isn't true for me. Maybe it's true for other people, but not for me, right? So the Hierophant says sometimes we have to think outside the box. Sometimes we have to be willing to try something different or do something that people say doesn't work. And we just have to experiment and see if it does or it doesn't, right? And so I think it would be a great time for you to, look at any rules that you're following that might not actually be rules, and to be willing to, think outside the box and see where things are going. I also think it's a great time for dreams for you, Libra, for sure. Like it would be great if you have a dream or something that you're dreaming of manifesting. The Hierophant, he communicates with heaven and earth. So he is able to take his vision from heaven and he's able to communicate it down here on earth, right? So we have to sometimes take our ideas down to earth with the Hierophant, and that would be good. Next, you have this Oracle's gift card. There you go, more intuition. You have this Birds of a Feather card. They say birds of a feather flock together. All air signs for months have been getting these cards that really say that you need to be careful of who you surround yourself with. So I do think it would be a good time for you to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with, of course, positive influences, people who want the best for you, people who want to guide you, all that stuff, right? And people that you actually want to be like, or people that you actually want to surround yourself with, and I think it'll change your life. I'll give you another example. It's like I joined this class based off a hobby I have and that I've been in every single Monday. And it's crazy because for a very long time, I've just been home doing nothing. And meeting people who are like taking this class, it's like they do stuff with their life. That's what I've noticed, right? Is that like I have other friends from YouTube and stuff that I talk to and everything that are like me, that all they do is work. And that's it. That's all they do, right? These people that I've met outside of this, like in this class, they have like very exciting lives. It's something I've noticed, right? And I want to be more like that. I want an exciting life. I don't want a boring life, right? And I think that's what you need to realize with this card. It's like, people who do stuff, they do stuff, right? And it's like maybe you need to surround yourself with more people like that. Or maybe you do too much. Maybe you need to go the other direction. I don't know. You're all different. But, it's definitely something I would think about. Next, in the area of the next few months, you have the Page of Swords. Yeah, we're in a very curious time, right? I think that is a good way to put it. I think curiosity is probably one of the best energies we can all embrace at this time, meaning that if you're interested in something, or if you become interested in like a new idea or something new that you could do in your life or a new direction, I would just explore it. Again, I think that you don't have to like overcommit to anything. I think there's a little bit of fear maybe with that Hierophant of making mistakes. and that just has to go to how much you're putting into something. If you're experimenting with an outside the box idea, just make tiny little investments. You don't have to make a complete change to something that you're experimenting with, but just try it a little bit and see what happens, right? And that is kind of the energy that I feel you should be embracing with the Page of Swords, is like following your curiosity. If something stands out to you, again, Page of Wands, right? If something makes you feel excited or enthusiastic, maybe you need to try it. Like maybe you get a new idea for your business or a new idea for your relationship. Try it just a little bit. See where it goes. And I feel being willing to do that will probably change your life, really, with the Page of Swords. You have the Queen of Pentacles in the area of your closest relationships. This is all relationships in your life. You always get the Queen of Pentacles or the Seven of Pentacles, of course, with me, Libra. Really wouldn't be a Libra reading without one or the other. Queen of Pentacles is about resourcefulness. And so this could say that the people that you surround yourself with at this time, maybe they should be people who have resources that you lack, right? I do think it is a good time. Just thinking back over the past couple of years, I think a lot of the messages I've been receiving, at least, have basically said this, that we need to become more efficient. One of the best ways to become more efficient is to double down on the things you're good at and then get other people to fill in what you're not, right? And someone asked me yesterday, I teach YouTube on the weekends, and it was Friday, so starting on Friday. Someone asked me, who's the first person you should hire for your business? And my answer is always, really, I think we should be hiring people for things that we don't want to do. That should be the first hire, right? My first hire was social media because, believe it or not, I work in social media, but if I had to do my Instagram, for example, it's not that I don't care about it. It just is kind of like a brain suck for me a little bit, and so it's easier for me to have someone else who works on that. I still make all the calls and everything like that, but it's easier to have someone else do it, and that was my first hire, right? And I kind of get the same thing for you here, and I'm not saying you have to hire people. This could just be relationships that you have. Maybe it's maybe focusing more on the types of relationships that are you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of thing. Would be a good idea with the Queen of Pentacles, and that's definitely popping into my head for you, Libra. Next, in the area of your future feelings, you have the Judgment card. One thing I will say is astrologically, there's a lot of clarity coming in for air signs over the next few months. Judgment can be clarity because this is your higher self angel, and these people are being called up out of their coffins by their higher self angel here. And, this could be the answer, or it's you could finally be getting a direction. I think a lot of your readings have been about kind of your purpose, right? And so I'm not saying things are perfect, but I do feel a lot of you are going to be getting more clear on your purpose in life, or, what you feel like you should be doing. And so I would be, again, listening to your dreams, your daydreams, your intuitive hits, and also your excitement. I do believe we are led by excitement in life. If we feel joyful, happy, if something brings us peace and makes us excited, we should probably do it because it's probably the right thing to be doing. Your outcome is the Queen of Wands. I'm a big fan of the Queen of Wands right now as well, because I think that the Queen of Wands is the type of mindset that maybe we should all have right now because of the time that we're in. She is willing to learn as she goes. She doesn't have all the answers. She doesn't know exactly what she needs to do to get to where she wants to go, but she starts the journey. She just goes, right? And she figures it out as she goes along. And she's not worried about making mistakes and things like that, right? She's also not afraid to rock the boat. She has this black cat right here. During the times of tarot, black cats were considered very unlucky, and but the whole point of the black cat and the Queen of Wands is that she doesn't care what people think. She just does what she wants to do. And so, it's a very clear reading if you can't tell. I feel like that flows very nicely, and it's, it's kind of like saying you are your own person, and it's your time to step up into the light here with that Mountain card. And, again, it's the hard things that you're doing with the Mountain, I don't think are hard. I think it's just that, sometimes we do something that people in our lives disagree with, having a black cat, right? And, that's the hard things that you're doing. With the Four of Cups and the Five of Swords, yes, you have the Hermit here. So again, stepping into the spotlight. He has a spotlight right here, but he has the star in his lantern, and I always say he's earned his right to be at the top of this mountain. You have two cards now where you're at the top of a mountain. It's like maybe you've already been through the hard part. And now it's time for you to shine your light, right? It's time for you to step into the spotlight. It's time for you to like take up the spotlight is what I feel. It's more about like taking up space, right? And it's more about like speaking up and saying, I'm the right person for the job, right? That type of energy is what I'm getting from the whole entire reading. With the Four of Pentacles, you have the Nine of Wands. Yeah, Nine of Wands is the Wounded Warrior. Nine of Wands can say maybe you're playing it a little bit too safe mentally. This is coming up in the area of what's on your mind. And so the Nine of Wands can say maybe you're playing it a little bit too safe because of like past experiences or worries or concerns or issues that you've had. And so again, I think, like I said, it's like time to take up more space. It's time to, put yourself out there more. And I would also say it's definitely time to not give up on a dream. Nine of Wands is a card of perseverance, so I would keep, pushing with this card. With the Three of Wands, you have the Chariot. Yeah, same thing. Chariot is about hard control. So we have two cards of control, really, in the tarot. Chariot, Strength card. Strength is like soft control. Chariot is about really taking control of the situation in your life, any situation in your life. And so the Chariot is about really making things happen and charging forward. I do feel if you step into the light here, or if you take up the spotlight, or whatever you want to call it, and if you speak up, that you will be doing this. But like, all your cards are basically saying you're moving in a new direction, right? He's leaving the city behind him, and he is charging away from that city because everything is the same inside that city. All the rules are the same. But he knows that maybe there's somewhere else where the rules are different, or where things can be different. So definitely a time for you to set yourself apart. With the Page of Wands, you have the Knight of Swords. Knight of Swords is coming up in the past. There's definitely something here in this reading about fear. I'll tell you something. When I have the Knight of Swords on the table, right, he's going back towards the past. It's almost like sometimes I feel he gets to a certain point in the reading, and then he gets a little nervous and he goes backwards. But this is good because he's coming up in the energy of what you're moving past, right? And so maybe you are following through on something, which I kind of said this earlier in the reading. With Saturn and Neptune and Aries, especially for the next several years, it's going to be important, follow through is going to be an important thing for you, where you see something through to the end. And I feel, again, this is good because you're probably no longer running away from things here, Libra. You're like charging through them, Chariot, which would be a good thing. Let's see. With the the Hierophant, I don't know why I said Hangman. You have the Emperor, another card of control, but the Emperor isn't really control, he is controlling, which there's a big difference between those two things. I feel pretty good about the Emperor here in your reading. I think that you are taking control, like I said. You're being more in that Emperor energy, so it would, again, be a great time for you to work with that Aries energy of, being bold, being assertive, seeing things through to the end, following through on things. And so I would just, embrace that energy of the Emperor, bossing up, basically. You are bossing up here. With the Page of Swords, you have the Six of Swords. Improvements, moving on to calmer shores. Following your curiosity is, probably what will lead to the biggest improvements for you, just in general. We are in a time where, I think everybody is moving on from something. Again, I say to everyone, we've had significant changes in the astrology. Again, we will never experience this again in our lifetimes, where so many major planets are basically shifting all at the same time, within like a year. Neptune, Saturn, Pluto changed signs last year or whatever. Jupiter just went into Cancer. It's like this, and Uranus just went into Gemini. It basically happened at the same time, kind of, right? And so this doesn't happen that often. And again, this is why so many of the readings this year are about big changes, because, that's what the astrology is requiring, is big change. And all the energy right now, today, by the way, is basically air and fire. So there's like no earth in the astrology, right? And also very little water. So, very interesting. With the Queen of Pentacles, you have the Five of Swords. I do think you're making changes with the people you surround yourself with in general. I also feel this need to like not beat yourself up too much. Like, we all do things we're not proud of, right? And throughout life in general. And I don't think life is about being perfect at all. And so I don't know, it's popping into my head. Maybe you did some things in the past that you wish you could, that you didn't do or whatever. And I feel the universe is saying like, no, you can change those things now. You don't have to like beat yourself up over it. I feel like someone needs to hear that. With the Judgment card, yes, you have the Tower. The most powerful combination in the tarot is Judgment and Tower. This right here is like a major revelation or a major wake-up call. So a lot of you could be having like a really big wake-up call right now. With the Queen of Wands, you have the Four of Swords. Yeah, make sure to get plenty of rest and, take care of yourself. We are in a time, it's a very energetic time in general, but I also think that we need to make sure that we're not like burning ourselves out, that we're not getting too tired, that we're not getting sick or injured. Health is really important. We have Chiron is retrograde in Aries. We also have the South Node in Virgo, so health, taking care of your health is going to be important. You have this Mule card. It says someone is extremely stubborn and unwilling to change. Again, those might be, this might be the type of person that you need to avoid. Again, I always say I don't think tarot should be drama, drama, drama. I think that we don't have to like completely remove people from our lives, but I would just spend less time with people who aren't willing to change. You have this pin card. It says new job or career. Yeah, it's an amazing time for a career for you, Libra. So anything you can do to, create those changes in career or to, improve your career, or if you're looking for a new job, it is a good time for that. You have this Parrot card that says someone will gossip about you and all your secrets. Again, stuff like this comes up for everyone right now. We had Mars go retrograde in Leo last year. We have Mercury went retrograde in Leo almost in exactly the same spot. And next year, Jupiter goes retrograde in Leo in almost exactly the same spot, but not quite. And, so what I would say is that, whenever we have a planet go retrograde somewhere and then like more planets later go retrograde, it's almost like that energy is being called back, right? So Mars retrograde is always bad for gossip, jealousy, things like that. The best thing we can do during Mars retrograde is ignore it. If you try to defend yourself during Mars retrograde, you look guilty. And yes, I understand that Mars retrograde was last year into the beginning of this year. Doesn't matter. I would still follow those rules. You have this teardrops card. It says great personal sorrow. I don't know. I feel like you're moving past this here. I do feel like there could be moments of loneliness, but I do also feel the reading is saying like there are things you can do to surround yourself with people where you won't feel alone, right? So don't just allow yourself to feel lonely. Go join a class like I did. Go do something, right? And you have this broom card. It says new home, new attitude. Yes, literally a couple years ago, or maybe it was like 2023 or something like that, or 2022 maybe, I did environment readings because of you, Libra. You kept getting the Nine of Pentacles with me. I remember this. And, there's something about you creating an environment around you of success. Now, there might be some limitations, but I would do the best you can because, it's clear to me that a theme for you has been like the better your environment, the better your life. And I would, make sure you're creating that. But pretty interesting. I like this. Looks good, Libra. Thank you for being here and definitely enjoy your month.